Hello, Mr. Todd Buonopane.
Oh my God, you're saying it right.
Yeah, I for the longest time I thought it was Buonopane, but then I saw your I think you were talking about like your worst audition, and you introduced yourself as Buonopane, and I was like,
Oh,
oh, okay, that makes
yeah.
sense.
Hi, Avery. Nice
Hi,
to
it's
meet you.
nice to
Look,
meet
you
you
have a
too.
spelling bee poster
Yeah,
behind
I
you.
do. It's signed by the OBC and everything. I'm such a wait. Hold on, I gotta show you something.
Ah,
I got the whole outfit. I got everything. I am ready.
I should be on there somewhere if it's the OBC. I was there originally. My
Yeah, you
name
you were, but the thing was,
somewhere.
I think from what I gathered from the seller, they said it was at some type of because I actually did see a production photo where it was signed by like literally everybody, like the crew, the understudies, and everything. But I think that's just purely the just like the main cast. Unfortunately, I think it was signed like, is that like a
Sure.
book signing or something?
Yeah, that when we signed for Broadway Cares, the ones they sell, that's all the acting company.
Oh,
But
okay.
if someone gets it and has them sign at the stage door.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, probably it was probably one of those then. But
yeah,
so you were the understudy for Barfay, Leaf, Chip, and Panch, if I remember correctly, right?
yeah. I was the primary understudy for Barfy, Coney Bear, and Panch,
Mm-hmm.
and then I played Chip about 4 times on
Oh
them.
wow, okay, yeah, so not a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I actually bought a this was a while ago, but I bought a spelling bee program from Broadway and I didn't realize this when I bought it, but this was I don't know what the chances of this actually are, but it was actually one of the performances where let me find the page because most of it's just ads, but it was actually specifically one of the ones where you were playing Barfay. So you're like all the way up
Oh,
there in the thing, and even in like the thing it
right.
says like at this performance,
I know
Todd
one of those.
Bonapane, yeah.
So Dan Fogler, who was the original
Mm-hmm.
Barfy, took 3 weeks off to shoot a movie, and
Oh, okay.
he was with like the most powerful agent in New York. So
Really?
when they negotiated his leave, like that way, the way it's listed in that cast of characters is never how. Like if you're not there, you're not there.
Okay.
But William Morris, his agent, negotiated that his name would be in the program. So, like, I was collecting for Broadway Cares during that time, and someone was like, "Who are you? I can't figure out who I'm seeing in the show." And I was like, "William Morris."
Yeah, because you look like I saw the. I'll get to this later, but in the We Like Spelling music video, you look like totally different. Like you have the wig on and everything. It's like you
Yeah,
look unrecognizable. But yeah. So I wasn't sure what the chances are of that happening. So I thought that was pretty bizarre. But
yeah, that's 3 weeks.
yeah. So
Weeks
that's
that happened.
yeah. No, that's crazy. But I actually met Dan Fogler last fall. He was doing a new play called The Boy Who Loved Batman. He was fantastic in it. I loved him. I got a
Oh,
picture
he's
with him
so
and everything.
talented.
He was, yeah, he's very good. But he's a nice guy, and it seems like a lot of the original cast was. So, I guess without further ado, let's get into the questions. So the first one was from my friend Olivia, and she wants to know what advice would you give to a new actor trying to break into the industry?
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's the most general question in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's take it from a spelling bee route.
Okay.
Don't try to be anybody else. Be like everybody in the original spelling bee was kind of unlike anything that had ever been on Broadway before.
Mm-hmm.
And even when like James Lapine, the director, came to an understudy rehearsal, he said, "Don't try to do what they're doing. Do your own version of it." Because like a lot of those roles are based on their own childhoods, you know?
Yeah, because I
So,
remember Dan specifically. I think he said based off experiences with his brother.
yeah,
What's her name? Deborah. She especially said that that was based heavily on like her childhood with like very high expectations and stuff like that. So that's where they draw a lot of their characteristics from. So
yeah.
yeah,
So we were like we were, working with the same dialogue and stuff, but we didn't have to do it the way they did it. Um, and so my advice to someone is like, don't try to be someone else. That person's already existed. And if you look through Broadway, the people we like kind of elevate to stars are a bunch of weirdos. Like there's some real strange, weird people. And in a beautiful way. I don't mean weird as a pejorative. I
hmm
just mean that like uh, theater is where weird can thrive. So like be your
yeah,
figure out who you are. You don't have to be anybody else. You can steal. We are all like, you know, we can all like be inspired by someone and steal a little bit and be inspired and steal a little bit, but we are the ultimate cheese grater that it all
Of
goes
course,
through,
yeah.
create ourselves. Yeah, that's what I would say, especially in reference to spelling bee
Yeah,
with
where the
characters.
characters are so like you could really like turn you make them super exaggerated. It's a very like character driven show in comparison
Yeah,
to something more subtle. All right, so these next few questions came from my friend Julia. She actually had some very good questions. So, how do you deal with the mixed feelings of being an understudy? The joy of being in a production but knowing your hard work might not get to be seen on stage?
good question, Julia. Um, spelling bee was like a combination of like the best thing that ever happened to me, and it was
Mhm.
really tough. It was my Broadway debut.
Really?
Yeah. And I've been in three other Broadway shows and I wasn't an understudy in those.
Mhm.
Um, and so I would say I'm grateful that I started there because it's really easy for the understudies to be ignored. And so when I open in a show now, I will make sure that the people that sit backstage to support the show get pulled into photos,
Yeah.
and that they are like it's so easy on an opening night that people are like, "Oh, I didn't get a card for the understudies." And
Mhm.
it's just like to it helps me like having gone through the experience, I think makes me uh more I'm just more observant of what other
Mhm.
people are going through. Um I it's it was sometimes hard because we got to leave at champion.
Mhm.
Champion. If no one had fallen or hurt themselves, we could leave. Um And I would do it because it wasn't fun to leave when the audience was leaving. Because if you've been to Circle in the Square, there is no separate stage door. The cast comes in where the audience comes in. And so you like, if you're leaving while the audience is leaving, it was just complicated. People thought I was Dan all the time.
Really?
My hair was longer, but I mean, I always say it's just like with skinny people, all chubby people look the same to them.
Uh,
But and it was just like that's complex. And sometimes it's hard to like go to work and leave and be like, I don't really do anything.
yeah.
Um, but it also like made me so brave. I played four different people in that
Yeah,
show.
that must have been so much like memorization. It's just I can't really imagine because you had to be ready like on your feet for like anything could have happened. You had to be ready to play any of those four characters. It's just like that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I mean, my I when I gave my notice, I left about 6 months before it closed. And I gave like usually give 4 weeks, and
Mhm.
they asked me if I would give 6 weeks because who was ever in my track, in this understudy track, in that sixth week, my last week, would
Mhm.
have to play all four roles in the same week
Yeah.
because of like days off and stuff.
Mhm.
And so it was like good to go out in that way. And I definitely like played one part in matinee and played a different part in the evening. Like that stuff happened. Um, but like you don't get a preview process. You get understudy rehearsals, but you don't get a real rehearsal process. We only ever had four of us, four understudies, so we were always approximating where other people were, and you just kind of have to figure it out live in front of a Broadway audience.
Yeah, that makes
And it
sense.
it made me so brave, and it was also just a good show. So like being an understudy is hard. I think it's harder when you're doing a show that you don't believe in. But I believed in it, and I think the all the people I covered in the show I thought were so good,
Mhm.
you know? So I think if you're sitting backstage and you're like, oh, I'd be so much better if I went on, like I think that that stuff can get ugly. But
It
it
can,
is
yeah.
it's a mixed blessing. I'm so grateful for it. I did it for 2 years. I'm so grateful, but it was hard
Yeah, no,
sometimes.
I can imagine. Yeah, but I thought that was a very good question. And then her next one was how do you quickly get your mind stage ready when you find out you'll be performing last minute, if that's ever happened?
The only time the only time it ever really happened, it used to happen. Deborah Craig was going through some vocal issues, and so she was calling out last minute. And Lisa Ewan, who was the original understudy
Mm-hmm.
for that, she was getting thrown on it last minute. And so like Lisa Ewan would come in and like put on like her show underwear and stuff and
Yeah.
get kind of ready just in case. The only time it happened to me was on New Year's Day.
Oh,
We
okay.
had a 2 p.m. performance that Tyler Ferguson thought was a 3 p.m. performance.
Oh.
So they were like, he was running late. They were trying to get him there, but it was now like 5 minutes to the show. And I didn't know anything was going on. The stage manager just walked up to me and said, "How long does it take you to become Coney Bear?" And I looked at the clock and I went, 5 minutes. Um, but like in a way, you don't have time to panic,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like you have a job
Okay,
to do.
here we
It's what you're
go.
paid for.
This,
Yeah.
all you have time to do is put those clothes on.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, sometimes it's better to know last minute. Although I make a rule for myself after seeing like the stuff with Deborah and Lisa that when I'm in a show, I like try to call out like 3 to 4 hours beforehand. As, Spelling Bee was different, but sometimes if you have a big sing in a show,
Yeah.
or like Chip is
Yeah,
really
the
hard to
belts,
sing.
his belts. I got a callback for him my senior year. I just couldn't do because our callback was Pandemonium. I couldn't do it. It
Yeah,
was too difficult.
so high. And I usually got enough notice for Chip, but like I've had some roles where I sing a lot, and I'm like, the person studying this role is not living their life like they have to go on every night.
Mm-hmm.
So you should give them time to like eat the right kind of food and like drink a lot of water and
Mm-hmm.
whatever they have to do to get their voice ready for it. So,
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's I can imagine that. Like it would probably be frustrating to an extent, but at the same time, I mean,
and
that's
you can't sweat the small stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Never gonna have a perfect show. So, yeah.
Okay, well that was good to know. So, all right, and then her last question was, how do you keep a part fresh in between getting ready to perform it?
I mean, I always say when I'm in a long run too, as one role, I always say like, let's try to accomplish one different thing that night.
Mm-hmm.
Spelling Bee was never hard to keep fresh because you were on stage with four people
Yeah,
you'd
the
never met
improv. Yeah,
before.
that's such a huge
Yeah.
aspect of it.
And like it's so Celia is my best friend from college. We graduated
Oh,
together.
really?
Yeah, and we were together the other day and I was with her and Sarah Salzberg the other day, and we still the things that we remember the most are when like the like Rona's introductions of the guest spellers that they wrote live on stage
Yeah.
would bomb.
Oh,
Because
really?
like they weren't always hits, or
Yeah.
they were funny jokes that that audience didn't understand. And then we on stage would be like, whenever a
Yeah.
joke bombed, we like it was so hard to recover. Um, yeah, I think that answers that question,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
yeah, I can imagine because so I am curious though. So you stated that you said you left like what was it, 6 months before the show closed on Broadway.
yeah,
So this show was up until like I think it was January 20th of 2008. So you saw like you went through a ton of the actors because obviously the first replacement for Dan was Josh Gad, and
yeah,
then the final one was Jared Gertner. So
yeah.
you were there for like all of them.
Yeah, I was only with Jared for a little bit, but Josh, I mean, Dan, before Josh came in, Dan's last week, he was sick the whole week
Oh, okay.
and was not going on much. And so I was on the whole week, and Josh in between shows on like a Saturday said, "Can you just meet me after the matinee and do the dances next to me? Because they keep doing them in front of me." And he had never been in a musical before.
Yeah, this is his that was his big break, yeah.
Yeah, so he didn't totally know what he was doing. And but I mean, I love, and Josh took me out to dinner and we had like the most wonderful, intimate, lovely conversation. And like he said to me, he was like, "Why don't you hate me?" And I said,
Aw.
"Why would I hate you?" And he said, "I've been watching you play this part all week. There's no reason you're not playing it." And I said, "Josh, that's really sweet. Me not getting this part has nothing to do with you getting it. Because I'll never forget when I first went on for when I did my third of my three. So I did Panch. I don't remember what order, but when I went on for my third
Mm-hmm.
one, the stage manager came up to me and said, "That was the kiss of death." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "You're great at all three of your tracks. They're never going to move you up." And I said, "Was I supposed to try to bomb? Like, I don't know."
That's
And
yeah.
James Lapine even called me one day at like 9 a.m. My phone rang. James is a lovely but a little bit of a scary person.
Okay,
And he
Lapine, right? The
said,
director.
yeah, and he
Okay.
said, "You're never moving up in my show and you need to know why." And I said, "Okay." He said, "We just held callbacks for your track for the tour, and they brought in the best four, and nobody could do it." And I got really, and like our associate director had been pitching me to like move up for one of the roles.
Mm-hmm.
And like I got really mad and I said, "We're never moving Todd up." And he said, "I would feel bad, but you go on all the time. It's so easy to cast someone that can do one role. It is so hard to cast someone that can do all the roles." And he said, he's like, "So I just need you to suck it up and just stay the understudy." And I was like, "Okay."
So in other words, you were just too good as an understudy because you
Well,
could.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was too good. I just was succeeding, you know?
Yeah.
My I look like Barfy. My heart is Coney Bear.
Mm-hmm.
And like I understand the humor of Panch, and
Yeah.
then I'm a singer, so I can do Chip. So it was just like they couldn't really find someone. It's not that I'm extraordinary. It's just that who I am just kind of fit
It
right
just
in the
it
middle
just
of
it's
all
just
those
how it
people.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was always like that was always kind of in the back of my mind. So I was like, okay, so I don't really know like the whole thing of how like the Broadway industry works and stuff. I just kind of thought it was like an inheritance thing. Where it's like, okay, so once this actor goes, then the understudy will take up, and then they'll the cycle keeps going on for their understudy, their so on so on. I wasn't really sure how that works, so I'm glad you actually touched on that a bit.
No, I mean it can. It can. Like there are definitely people that have like been the standby for Elphaba that moved on to Elphaba,
Mm-hmm.
but that's someone that's only doing one role.
Yeah, but you were like more
I
of like a
was there.
swing.
Yeah, I was there to do four. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it is similar to a swing in that, like, when you're auditioning for a Broadway show, if you're a dancer, if you're a chorus person,
Yeah.
and they find out you've been a great swing before, they are going to make you the swing because being a swing is so much harder
Mm-hmm.
being in the show every night.
Yeah. So now on to my question. So my first question was, what was your audition process like for Spelling Bee? Like, do you remember what song you sang? Like, was it like a thing where you're like, okay, yeah, I know I got on this show, or was it more like, I'm not so sure if I got that one or not?
So I had four auditions total, and the first I kind of don't remember all of them, but I know I was given material from the show. I was given like some of I'm Not That Smart and some of Magic Foot. I don't think I was given Magic Foot. I was given the part of second
Oh,
when he
like the
does
huge belt where they're both like harmonizing with each other.
no, it's that soft part when he sings about her hairdo.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
the in the word fecund is in there. You will not outrank. What is it? I don't know. But because I was like, oh, they didn't give me magic foot, they gave me this hard part. Um, and and then I don't know if I ever said punch lines in the audition. I must have. But so I had done three auditions and then I was having the final callback. And my track, as they call it, a track meaning like what you're responsible for, was the only thing being cast when the show moved to Broadway. Because off Broadway, they had um they had Lisa Ewan because Deborah Craig had to miss a show for a wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and they had Willis White because Derek Baskin had to miss a show.
Mm-hmm.
That was like part of their negotiations. And then otherwise, like Vadim, our music director, was gonna go on if Barfi had to miss, and they said James Lapine would go on for Panch.
Really?
But
That okay.
yeah, there were different laws then that the union had negotiated, and Off
Mm-hmm.
Broadway didn't have very strong rules saying you have to have understudies.
Yeah.
They do now. But so and because Celia was not able to do one reading, one like table reading of it when they were developing it, Kate Weatherhead had played all of there.
Mm-hmm.
And they all liked Kate. So Kate never had to audition. They just offered it to Kate. And so I was the only thing, my role was the only thing they were casting. And I was doing a workshop of a new musical at that time. And it was a crazy show, but they let me the director of it. The show came to Broadway. It was a huge disaster. It was called In My Life. It was a huge disaster. I was offered both. I chose Spelling Bee, but I
Good choice.
he didn't want anybody to leave the show to leave rehearsals. He didn't want people auditioning for things because he was show was going to Broadway, and so I literally had to make a thing with the stage manager where she let me sneak out of rehearsal
Really?
because in the same building on the same floor. And so I ran over. There were four of us for this one part at this point, and I walk in the room and there's like 20 people there because I'm the only thing they're casting. So everybody, all the producers, like everybody involved wants to have a say in me being
Mm-hmm.
cast or not. And so I go in and I say to Tara Rubin, who's the casting director, hey, I'm doing a workshop down the hall. Hopefully no one will come looking for me. Because I was legit scared that this guy would come banging on the door.
Yeah.
And James Lapine, who likes to make you scared in an audition,
Oh,
said to
okay.
me, well, you can leave now. And I just decided that was a joke and went, ha 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 ha, I'm going to do the audition. And then he said, why don't you sing your own song? So I had so much material at this point from the show to sing,
Mm-hmm.
and no one had asked me to sing my own song. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I sang this song called I Met a Girl, which is Julie Stein and Comden and Green from Bells Are Ringing. It's from like 1950, not right for spelling bee. But I was like, I didn't think I was going to have to sing anything else. So I was like, just sing something you do great. And so I did that. And then I did the sides and I did these things. I was the last person to go. And then the four possibilities just sat in the hallway in case they needed to see something else. And I found out later that James turned to our stage manager, who was in the room, and
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm sure we all have our opinions, but you're the one that's going to have to work with them the most because the stage manager really is who works with the
Mm-hmm.
understudy. And he said, who do you want to work with? And she said, I think I'd like to work with Todd. And he said, good, that's my choice too. Anybody else want to argue that? And so like, because she told me that's how it like worked out for
Mm-hmm.
me. Um, which is fascinating. And then I was on a lunch break from, but like I couldn't get over the fact that I had gone in and made that thing and James told me I could leave. And I was like kind of stuck on the fact that like, oh, he hates me now. And on lunch break, I went back to rehearsal. They didn't know I had left. And then we had our lunch break, and I had to go to Macy's to buy a shirt to wear for the presentation of this new musical thing.
Okay.
And I'm in Macy's, and I had sent Celia a text, and she calls me back, and she said, and I was like, Celia, I really think I blew it. Sorry, I'm not going to be in the show. Oh, hold on, I'm getting a call, and it was my agent telling
Oh.
me. And I literally sat on the floor in the men's department of Macy's and cried. And because I'm like, I don't come from money,
Mm-hmm.
and I was surviving in New York so poor, and you don't get rich on Broadway really, but like I was gonna be able to like pay my bills,
Yeah,
you know?
that's a big thing, especially in New York. Those prices, it's
Yeah,
no joke. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, was that way too much info?
No, no, it's okay. I love that because like we there was a 2020 interview with the OBC that was just the main cast, and it was nice to hear all their stories, but like just hearing just even just one more perspective and hearing that much about it, it's just like that means a lot. I actually really like that story.
Thanks. I've never seen the 2020. I'll have to look it up.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you've seen this before, but Josh Gad did an interview a few years ago. I think it was like 2016 or so. But he talks about his audition process for Spelling Bee. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's a really sweet story. I like it a lot. It's a good video.
I don't know if you've seen his book,
His book, no, I have not.
because it is not sweet anymore in his book. Because he and James Lapine did not get along very well.
Oh, like even like after he got cast and stuff.
Yeah, they were kind of at odds all the time, and
Oh,
he
okay.
has a whole chapter in his book In Gad We Trust. and he told me he wrote it, and I like went to the drama bookshop and just pulled out his book and read the chapter there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
But if you only want to feel good things, don't read it.
yeah, no, I understand. Because I remember he talked about like he said that he was just super nervous. It was like he was ready to give up on acting at that point.
Yeah.
Like he like I think he said that like after the audition he was like so convinced that he didn't get the part that he just like called his mom. He was like, "Listen, I'm just gonna go to law school," or it was something like that. But it was a big thing for him. And then his agent called and she was like, "Hey, the I think it was like the producers got you like 2 tickets for Spelling Bee." He's like, "Why would I want to go see that show?" And they're like, "Oh, because you start in 2 weeks, and they thought you might want to get familiar with it, or so, it was something like that." But it was so I mean, even though like the audition process was like that, I can understand that like with James, I guess that might have been a different story. But yeah, I've never heard about that, but I've seen him promote the book before, so I'll have to go check that out. So my next question was so what was up with the why we like spelling music video? Because in that 2020 interview I mentioned, it seems like to a lot of the actors that was just kind of like a weird fever dream for them. Like they just like they were very confused on why they even did it. It was a song that wasn't even in the show. Dan wasn't even there, so then they had to get the understudy for him, which was you. And it was just a whole thing that they just didn't really understand. So what was your experience like filming that and just going through that?
Well, okay. So the Macy's parade is
Mm-hmm.
something you want to be on, but every year there's like that's NBC, but CBS also has their thing of the parade, and they will do these pre-taped things.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually done it. I did it with the revival of Grease after Spelling Bee, and we did like Grease Lightning in a parking lot, and
Oh yeah,
her
you were
like,
Roger, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were going to be on the CBS parade, and Spelling Bee was hard to do clips on TV for because it wasn't like anything.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just not like you can't do pandemonium
Mm-hmm.
because you can't wreck things, you can't run around,
Yeah,
can't like, and then like I think maybe like,
because Pandemonium's really the only good ensemble piece that would showcase the show very well. But like
yeah,
everything else is like mostly about a specific character or a pair of characters, so it's
right.
difficult.
Or like some I think they did a piece of the opening into some spelling into Goodbye for the Tonys. Um, but like there just wasn't something to do. And so this song was in the show when it was a two-act musical.
Mm-hmm.
And it
It was
went away
supposed to
very
start off
quickly.
Act Two, just judging by
Yeah.
like the lines.
Yeah. It went away, yeah, because Chip is already out.
Yeah, but all the other spellers are still in, and that really
Yeah.
and Leaf gets out soon after that. So I mean, there's only really room for it to fit, probably to just kick off Act Two.
Yeah. Um, so I mean they all knew it. I had to learn it
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't in it off Broadway. Um, Dan often didn't want to do those things.
Yeah,
Those like,
yeah. So in the 2020 interview, he actually didn't even know this video existed. It was just kind of they brought it up to him, and he just kind of looked confused. He's like, "Here, let me show you. There's this. This is how they described it. I'm not. This isn't a comment on you, but the two people interviewing them, they're like, there's this weird soft core porn shot of Barfay exercising his leg, and it's like the bottom down, like the up down shot of him,
yeah.
and they showed him the video, and he just like he went to hysterics. He loved it. It was hilarious for him, but yeah, that just
I
it's.
mean, I think we had a lot of fun that day
Mm-hmm.
because we were literally just making it up as we went, uh,
Yeah.
like how we were going to shoot it. But I don't think it's necessarily a good representation of the show. It is kind of a fever dream.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is strange. Um, yeah, I don't know. We got paid extra to do it, so
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean at that time, yeah, that's a good thing for you guys. But yeah, no, I was just
sure.
always curious about that because that just always seemed like a very like even I'm sure you're aware, but they mistakenly credited you as Dan Fogler at the start. So
I mean, it was so par for the course. It was so, yeah. It's one of the hard things about being an understudy is that like you are very much ignored by manage. Like Opening night of spelling bee, the four understudies stuck together. No one wanted our picture. That's cool. I didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm.
But we sat at the cast table. And someone came over and was like, I'm sorry, this table's reserved for the cast. And I said, we are the cast, we're the understudies.
Oh,
And he went, okay, hold on a sec. And then came back and he said, okay, so you can stay now, but when the real cast shows up, you're gonna have to stand up.
ouch.
And it was just like a lot of really weird, specific things like that that happened over and over and over
Yeah.
again. And they, we knew if they came to us for press stuff, it was because someone in the onstage cast couldn't do it, or like Lisa Ewan and I once performed at a mall on Staten Island, and we were like, oh, they didn't even ask them
Yeah.
because like it was like one of the more embarrassing press events. So, are you frozen? Do I
Uh,
still have you?
yeah, I'm still here, but yeah, for me, your camera's frozen. Okay,
All
there
right,
we go. I can see you again. There we go.
I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
that was odd. I'm not sure what's up with that, but yeah. So that just seems like a weird experience. But yeah, no, that's just like once the real cast shows up. That's I don't know. I mean, there's definitely better ways to phrase that.
Yeah, and while that sucks, I'm also grateful because it makes me realize how easy it is for people to say things like that, and I don't let that go by to
Yeah,
other people. So,
yeah.
yeah.
All right. So my next question was, what are some of your favorite memories on set from when you were working on Spelling Bee?
Um, well, I'll start with the understudies. We realized quickly that we had to take care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were so supportive of each other, and um we would do things like decorating each other's doors, dressing room doors when
Aw.
you were going on for something for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we knew how like and we had like people like Sarah Stiles, who's now a Tony nominee, came in for a while. And I would be there and they're like, oh, Sarah's going on for the first time. And I'm like, do you mind if I run out and get her some flowers? Because like you have to celebrate these people
Yeah.
because management just kind of isn't going to. And it was Sarah's Broadway debut, and someone needed to celebrate her. So I love the way we took care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for a while, they were gonna make me try to be Mitch, understudy Mitch, and they were like trying to put me in Derek Baskin's costume, and I was like, "Look, if you want me to look like an ex-con, you got to put me in either an orange jumpsuit or you have to dress me like Turtle from Entourage, which was a show on television at the time. But so then one of our producers came up to me and said, why did you tell the costume people to dress you like a turtle? And I'm like, not a turtle. So people were always like hiding turtles all over my things for me because
Just because of
there was
that one
like,
throwaway thing.
because someone thought I wanted to be a turtle. Um, but like stuff with Celia is like the stuff that really, the first time I went on, I my first time on stage with the cast in performance, I played Panch because Jay Reese took a vacation. So I went on and they were really scared to let someone go on for Panch because Panch runs
He
the
is the
show.
comedy. Yeah, he's the
Well, he
comedy
also just
crutch for
kind
it.
of
Yeah.
runs the show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you decide like who you're going to call up. And he wrote a lot of the jokes for Rona Lisa. And so like people were just scared that like I wouldn't be able to do it. But we did when we first like they sat down on the bleachers and I sat down at the desk. I looked across at Celia and we like went to college together.
Yeah.
And her eyes started to well up and I was like, no, 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 we can't do this. I
No.
talk about the show. But like, and then I would play Barfy and we would get that little ballet together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that stuff meant so much to me. Like to like dream dreams with someone when you're
Mm-hmm.
younger and then let them come true together when you're an
Yeah.
adult. Um, yeah, I mean and then like I feel like what I remember most are the mistakes. I remember during Pandemonium when I was Coney Bear, I fell across the conductor's lap.
Oh.
Um, and it was his Broadway debut conducting, this guy Randy, and his parents were in the house. And after the show, he was outside and I was like, Randy, I'm so sorry. And his parents came running up and they were like, You made his debut so memorable, hugging me. And I was like, I'm glad you think of it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but like all of like I remember like when Deborah was going through vocal problems and she would
Hmm.
try to like rewrite the song on stage because her voice wasn't doing it, and we would be like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like an experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the stuff that kind of goes awry that sticks with you. Some of the weirdo spellers. There was
Hmm.
some guy that, like, every time Mitch touched his back, like a puff of something would come off, like powder or something. It was
What?
so weird. Like that stuff was just so fun and
Yeah.
fun. And yeah, I just remember, I mostly what sticks with me are when it went wrong.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that makes sense. It's easy to see those mistakes in comparison to like all the successes, but that I think that's just like that like weird imperfection with spelling bee is something that I love. That's why I love the show so
Yeah,
much.
it's a feature. It's not a bug.
Yeah,
Like if you see a spelling bee production that's too slick, it's not good.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I would kill to see more footage of you doing any of those roles because as far as I'm aware, that why we like spelling music videos like that's the only thing out there.
Well, we weren't filming things
Yeah,
then.
I know there
Somehow.
was like press reels and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
there's only like 5 minutes of that, and that's obviously the main cast. So,
I sang some like they would send me to events to sing I'm Not That Smart and things like that,
hmm
but I don't know if anybody filmed it. So,
yeah, but I would, especially since it was back in like 2005, so you know,
yeah.
smartphones and stuff weren't as accessible as they are now.
No, we
So,
all had flip phones.
yeah,
None of them worked in Circle in the Square because we were underground.
it's very unfortunate. But I guess since I don't have what do you call it, Zoom Pro, I'm running out of a bit of time here. But I have two more questions.
Okay.
So first of all, I know you're a pretty big fan of the Muppets. So, what are your thoughts on Avenue Q? Because I
Oh, I
like
love
that show.
Avenue
Yeah,
Q.
that's such a
Oh,
good
I
show. I love
love
it.
Avenue Q.
Yeah, it's so
And
good.
my best my best friend Barrett Foa, who was eventually a Coney Bear,
Yeah, yeah, he was
was
Princeton, right?
yeah, and he was Princeton when Spelling Bee opened, and we would like our show was like 10 minutes shorter than his, so I would like we we'd go down and I'd walk down to 45th Street,
Hmm
4th Street, 45th Street, where the Golden is, and just pick him up, and we'd go out after shows, and like yeah, I mean, Spelling Bee and Avenue Q feel like sister shows in a
Yeah,
way.
they came out like I think Spelling Bee only came out like a year or so after
Yeah.
Avenue Q. They were pretty close together, and also Avenue Q. A lot of people thought after Avenue Q, you know, it won over Wicked for best musical back then at the Tonys.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember what the show was, but a lot of people thought there'd be like a very similar story there with Spelling Bee versus the musical that wound up winning.
Spamalot.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but Celia gave an interview in the Times saying this is why we're not going to win because Avenue Q there was like a backlash to like giving it to the little show. We also were in a year of four excellent nominated musicals,
hmm
so I'm sure they all like when it was Wicked and Avenue Q, those were really the only ones you were going to vote for. There were other shows that season, but they weren't. But with us, it was Light in the Piazza, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and Spam a Lot, and
Yeah.
those are great shows.
Yeah, no, they
So,
are. Um,
yeah.
I have less than a minute left, but let's see if we can get through this. Let's see if we can get through this. So, what to you makes Spelling Bee special in comparison to other musicals?
Okay.
All right, we got it, we got it.
All right. I don't have much time anyway, but I
Yeah.
just want to say I want to answer your question. So, what makes it special? Um, there was the original Isherwood New York Times review said something like musicals often are about big events, and it described like a revolution in France or all these big events that a musical can be about, and Spelling Bee is about these little events that change each one of those people forever.
Yeah.
And I also think that you start the show thinking you're just there for a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and it usually happens when Coney Bear gets out, when you're seeing a good production of Spelling Bee, when Coney Bear gets out and the audience goes, "Oh!" And they all gasp, knowing it's a musical where everyone's going to get out at some point,
Because they
right?
love him, yeah. They got attached
But
to him.
they don't know, they love all of them, right? And they didn't know they loved them until they started, until they were ripped away. And it's, a lot of shows like make you care about characters in a very obvious way. And I feel like Spelling Bee is sneaky in how you care about the characters. You didn't know you were going to care about these things. You thought you were just there for a good time because it was making you laugh so hard and everyone was a little bit of a weirdo. But I've directed it at a college since, and I always said if they don't gasp when Coney Bear gets out, we're on the wrong path. Because it's so easy to just go too big and like create a real cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
We have to know that like this is a show where Magic Foot has to exist and the I Love You song has to exist. So like we have to, it's a real balance of creating a reality for that show to live in. And yeah. I mean, I'm so proud to have, been involved with that show.
I can imagine that it really just seems like that's a one in a million right there. Like
Yeah.
even the one of the best productions that's happened recently was, I'm sure you probably saw photos of it. It was the Kennedy Center
Yeah.
last fall. That was a I was so close to seeing that show, but I had to go down to Florida for a bit because I wanted to see one of my high school's shows that they were doing to see some of my friends and stuff. But it looked very nice. I loved it. I saw some of the press reel and stuff. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. And then some of the obviously some of the OBC members came out and they were guest spellers on it at one point as well, so that was nice.
Yeah. Of
But thank you so unbelievably much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate this.
course.
It was really nice to. I didn't know a lot of that, so it was very nice to get your perspective on a lot of that.
Lovely to meet you,
It was
Avery.
nice to meet you too, Todd.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye.